Hello everyone. Welcome to the webinar. So we are starting now this new webinar on the topic of traveling with a learning lab and how to work well with stakeholders. So our speaker today is Jørund Høiskog from Norway, and he's working in the Norwegian Center for ICT in Education, and he's been involved in many European Schoolnet projects before, including ITEC project and the Future Classroom Lab. And he's also one of the current Future Classroom Lab ambassadors, and he's very experienced in running several workshops and webinars for teachers, training them on different topics. So I leave the floor to him without further introductions, so he can tell us about the best ways to work with different stakeholders in the Future Classroom Lab, and we'll get some tips and information how to reach a wider audience with a mobile version of the Future Classroom Lab. So, Jørund, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Elina, and welcome to this webinar where I will be talking about traveling around our country with a learning lab and how we work with stakeholders. I hope there's some tips for you all to pick up on. So as Elina said, I am working in the Norwegian Center for ICT in Education. I work most of the time with the innovative ICT. And the Norwegian Center for ICT in Education was established in 2010. We are located in Tromsø and Oslo, where I am sitting. And we are an executive agency under the Norwegian Ministry of Education and Research. We are about 80 employees, and there are 4 of us who are working with innovative ICT. And we have 2 Future Classroom Labs, one in Oslo and one in Tromsø. So, in short, we work for the realization and development of ICT policy in Norwegian education. So, the picture you see here is from our Future Classroom Lab in Oslo, called Rom for lek og læring. It's really a quite small room. But we do use other meeting rooms in Oslo as well when we have Future Classroom Lab activities. And we have kind of specialized in traveling around with different ICT equipment and running workshops and conferences and events throughout the Norwegian education sector. So I guess some of you may be familiar with what a Future Classroom Lab is, or a learning lab, but I would like to hear from you what kind of experiences and what kind of familiarity you have with a learning lab or a Future Classroom Lab concept. So I will give the presenters ball back to, should that be Elina or to host EUN to do a quick poll?
Yes, hi Jørund, that's me, that's Naya. So take
Okay.
the presenters, right?
So back to the EUN host.
Yeah, so I want to share the poll now.
Yeah.
Okay, I think you will be able to see it now.
Yeah.
Okay, so we're just going to give a few seconds for participants to answer. Okay, the results are coming. Still 11 people haven't answered yet. Okay, Okay, so we just wait a few more seconds. It's coming.
Yeah.
Okay, so everybody has answered now. I will close the poll and you will be able to see the results. Okay. We just need to wait a few seconds now. Still waiting.
So,
Can you see the results? Can you see it, Jeroen?
no, I cannot see the results.
Okay. Okay, I'm gonna share it now.
Yeah, I can see the results now.
Okay, so I will give you the percentage
Excellent.
rights back to you now, okay?
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Jeroen.
Okay, thank you. That's an interesting response of you. It seems like, okay, 24% of you do have a learning lab or a future classroom lab, or there are also 24% of you who is planning to set up a learning lab. And there are 1/3 of you, 33%, which are curious. Okay. I expect that many of you will be familiar with the Future Classroom Lab in Brussels and the Future Classroom Lab concept. We can talk about the Future Classroom Lab very shortly. The Future Classroom Lab in Brussels was established in 2012, and in the lab you will find 6 learning zones where visitors can explore the elements in delivering 21st century learning. So you can move around in the zones and work in some of the zones, cooperate, and bring in presenters and interact with the whiteboards, etc. As you will see in my presentation here, we have 2 classroom labs who are inspired by the Future Classroom Lab, which you will see in the logo down to the left here. I guess there are about between 15 and 20 Future Classroom Labs around Europe who are inspired by the modern Future Classroom Lab in Brussels. So the idea behind our Future Classroom Lab concept and why we spend time and money and invested in this concept, that came out more or less of the ITEC project, where we explored different technologies with teachers for innovative and engaging learning. One thing we thought to ourselves after the ITEC project was that teachers are all the time told to integrate technology better in their teaching practices. They should work on the 21st century skills for students, etc. But as many of you who have a background in school or are teachers, you will know that there's often a lack of time, there's often a lack of resources and a lack of proper networks to explore technology. And budgets and funding can be a problem when you want to explore how technology can be used for 21st century learning. So the idea behind the Future Classroom Labs in Norway, and I guess for many of the other labs as well, is that teachers and other stakeholders can come to a FCL lab and get inspired, participate in workshops, make scenarios for learning, explore easy-to-use technologies, or perhaps cutting-edge technologies for potential use in the classroom. And as we will see, we have kind of specialized in traveling around with our learning lab. So we go to conferences and events a couple of times a year and set up learning labs throughout Norway. Of course, we want teachers and school leaders, students and other stakeholders to reflect on technology with us. We need to get input from educators. We want to know what technologies they do actually see themselves using in the classroom. We want to know what the enablers and the barriers for using technology are. And of course, we want to make education engaging, relevant and exciting, both for students and for teachers, and for other stakeholders as well. So here is the Future Classroom Lab on the road. The picture on top left here is some of the equipment we might take with us on the road. This is a downscaled version of the Future Classroom Lab here. I can see, let me see, that is a drone with wheels. There's a B-bot for programming. There is an Arduino with a gaming interface on top, and there's a usual Arduino and some other stuff as well. And on the picture to the right here, we see my colleagues Christine and Vibeke from our first trip with the traveling FCL lab. We even bring the Ultimaker 3D printer, which you may see in the middle of the picture, sometimes on the road. And the picture on the bottom left here is another version of taking the Future Classroom Lab in the box and the bit of traveling. So there's a team of 4 people here working with innovative ICT, but we try to involve our network of teachers and Future Classroom Lab ambassadors locally when possible. Because in our opinion, teachers do know best what technology could be used in different subjects. Me and my colleagues, we have some ideas from time to time. We always try to check the technologies and the subjects with the teachers before we make any fuss about how you can use this or that technology in learning. It's always important to have teachers who can give us a reality check on what will be working and what will not be working in the classroom setting. So this is a list with the equipment we can potentially travel with. We have some tablet PCs, we have a couple of iPads, we have a gaming PC and controllers. We have virtual reality equipment with cardboard viewers and Samsung Gear VR. We have different stuff for coding. We have Raspberry Pis, we have Arduino, we have B-bots. And we bring our 3D printer from time to time, and 3D printed objects, not least. And we also bring a few drones. Some where you can use your smartphone as a controller, and some drones where you are supposed to build your own drone and make it fly. It's very exciting to build your own drone and seeing it fly. At least most of the times they do work. So a few times per year we bring all of this equipment with us on roads. On other occasions we bring some of it, so we are able to travel with our Future Classroom Lab in a small box or two. When we go to the biggest conferences, we might fill a car with stuff, but most of the stuff here is quite easy to transport and to make the logistics with quite easy. So even though we have a lot of equipment in our 2 labs, after going a few years. In our opinion, it shouldn't really be too expensive to have a future classroom lab or to travel with a future classroom lab. You don't need a ton of expensive equipment. You can come quite far with really cheap stuff, like the virtual reality cardboard viewers, which can be bought for about €5 and upwards. If people bring their own mobile phones, and they do have a mobile phone which can run virtual reality experiences and games, it's very easy actually to set up a small virtual reality workshop. And we have had a lot of fun with the Makey Makey over the last few months. The Makey Makey is kind of an invention kit for the 21st century, where you can turn everyday objects like the banana, the apples, and the orange you can see here. There's even a carrot. You can turn these everyday objects into touchpads, and you can combine them with the internet. And you can combine them with technologies such as Scratch for game programming. You can connect them to Arduinos and a lot of stuff. It's really only your imagination which is the limit for the Makey Makey. It's a very simple tool which is extremely flexible and fun to use. In the chat I posted a video from one of our ambassador schools where they use Makey Makey and Play-Dohs and buckets of water as game controllers. And it's very easy to just put in these little thingies into carrots, Play-Dohs, buckets of water, anything really which leaves water and electricity. And it's, in my opinion, a very powerful tool for education, which more people should try. And of course we use for our coding workshops, which I will be speaking about very soon, Code Studio and Scratch, which are free resources. So we work a bit with Arduinos, which are microcontrollers. There's a traffic light being made up in the picture to the left here. We use Scratch in a lot of workshops for doing animations and simple games. There's a Makey Makey over here as well, and we have also had some experiences with Computercraft, which is a modification for Minecraft, where you can program with a text-based programming language called Lua inside of Minecraft. You can even program turtles in Computercraft to dig up resources for you. You can program the turtles to find diamonds or coal, charcoal, whatever. And by working with Computercraft, you will learn a lot about text-based coding. So these are all very powerful and very good resources to use. And as I mentioned, Scratch is even free. So this is more or less what it looks like when we bring our Future Classroom Lab on the road. On the top left here is a picture from a conference we did in Bergen last year about computer games and coding in schools. On the right here is a picture from the NCOOL conference, which is Norway's biggest conference on ICT and learning, where we are moving in with our Future Classroom Lab this year and last year, and hopefully the next year as well. So in this workshop at NCOOL, I think we are working with Arduinos, and as you see, there's also a couple of students working with Arduinos, actually teaching the adults how to use Arduinos. On the left here is a picture from one of our ambassador schools where we are doing research on how to use drones in mathematics. As you can see from the picture, it looks like the students are quite engaged and having a math lesson of their lifetime, I think. Working with coordinates and doing practical maths with the drones. So that was a very fun experience. We also do workshops with computer games in subjects such as history, social sciences, maths, projects where you have to collaborate and communicate with other students. You may be familiar with some of these games. If I should mention any specific games which you should really try if you haven't tried them in a learning context, I think I would point on the Monument Valley game, which is available for tablets and smartphones. That is one of the most beautiful games which ever have been made, and it has also shown itself as a very good resource in mathematics, and you can also use it for language, storytelling, etc. And also the Keep Talking and Nobody Explodes game is a very fun and engaging multiplayer game for PC. It's also even in a virtual reality version. That is one of the best tools I've ever come across for doing communication and collaboration training. So that is really a very strong 21st century skills game. I think that the most important stakeholders we have in our future classroom lab concept are the teachers. Because as I mentioned a few minutes ago, every idea we have, every workshop we do, everything we buy and test, we try to talk to teachers, we try to lend them some equipment where they can experiment with stuff in their classroom. We get the teachers to write learning stories and scenarios. We get the teachers to share their stories with other teachers. So the teachers in our network, our future classroom ambassadors, are really the most important stakeholders we have. So these are pictures from the NCool conference a couple of weeks ago, where we had several workshops on games and coding, and even did a few panel sessions with mostly talking and some live gaming as well. So we reach a couple of hundred people on a conference like this. Another very important stakeholders for us are actually the students. You may have seen the students doing maths with drones here a couple of slides ago. This picture here on the left, top left, is some students we had visiting at the NCool conference, which tested a new game concept for classrooms for us, which is called the Breakout EDU. You may have heard about the phenomena of escape rooms, which are physical rooms popping up in all major cities around the world, where you have a time limit on an hour, and where you have to solve puzzles and gather clues to lock yourself out of the room within an hour. And there is even an educational version of the escape room phenomena on its way. Breakout EDU is an American concept where you get this wooden box with a couple of blocks with some other stuff in it, and there's ready-made games, and there's there's lots of resources for making your own games. So these students on the top left here have tested the Breakout EDU concept for us at their school. And on the left, on the bottom here is one of the girls one of the students' girls showing a teacher how to use an Arduino and make traffic lights. This girl is one of the Arduino experts at her school. She actually had so much fun with the Arduino in the classroom that she wanted her own Arduino for a Christmas present. So, of course, running a Future Classroom Lab, a learning lab concept like this is more or less a question of funding. But it's important to say for me that none of the teachers who are in our network don't get paid for their services from us. They get other benefits, they get to travel a bit, they get to do professional development. We pay the conference fees for some of them at some conferences. And one of the reasons we can travel so much is due to our travel budget being quite sizable. Maybe because we have a location in 2 cities, so we are expected to travel a bit every year between the 2 cities of Tromsø and Oslo. And it's a strategic move as well to have some funding to make teachers able to travel and to travel ourselves to where the teachers are. But our most important asset by far is time. Me and my colleagues, we do have the time to work with the teachers, to make workshops, to do training, to check out new technologies, and we are not bound too much outside of what we are doing with innovative ICT. So this is more or less how our jobs are organized. We are supposed to look for new technologies, we are supposed to cooperate with teachers, and to run this network of teachers. So of course, what we do don't come for free, but it's totally possible to do a lot of the stuff we do without a too big budget, I would say. So I have a couple of examples before my presentation ends. This is from a so-called innovation camp we did with teacher training institutions. So there's me and Christine on the picture here with the travel version of the Future Classroom Lab. This is from an event done in cooperation with the Junior Achievement, which some of you may be familiar with, and our own Department of Teacher and Kindergarten Education. So at this event, we had as many as 15 teacher education institutions from Norway who participated, which set up mixed teams with the teachers and teacher students. And the goal was to make new ideas for integrating technology in teacher education. So this camp was over 2 days, and it was very beneficial for us to see that actually most of the teacher training institutions in Norway participated in this event. So a couple of ideas came out of the innovation camp. I have one of the ideas as an example. This is not an idea which have been realized yet. This is all in a concept stage. So this is just like the basic idea for one potential use of technology in teacher education. Okay, so let's roll. One of the groups made this idea about simulating a classroom for teacher training in virtual reality, which I personally think is a very good idea. You see here that there is a teacher student to the right who he has an Oculus Rift headset, and what he sees in his virtual reality experience is obviously a very messy classroom. There's students dancing on tables. There's obviously a lot of noise going on in this classroom. But this being in virtual reality, it's still a safe environment for the teacher students. But nonetheless, what you experience is in virtual reality is called presence. So it's like being there in this noisy classroom, more or less. So after a couple of minutes, this classroom simulation is getting out of control when the students in the virtual reality classroom start mixing the wrong chemicals. So here things are getting out of hand, but luckily there is an instructor nearby which can pause the simulation, like here. So here the instructor or mentor can stop the simulation and do a reflection with the students on what happened in the classroom, what went wrong, what would you do different another time. At the moment we are speaking with producers of virtual reality in Norway who are very keen to make a contribution for learning. So this is one of the ideas which actually might be realized in some way. I can't promise that, but I think that this is a very good example of what happens when you let loose the energy of the students and the teachers from the teacher training institutions. So maybe we will see this realized at some point. I hope so. Another stakeholder we have been working with this spring is actually the Norwegian Parliament building. Because the Norwegian Parliament building was recreated in a Minecraft edu by 6th graders from Brundalen skole in Trondheim. As you can see from the pictures, they have made a very accurate recreation of the Parliament building. That is because we have been talking with the Parliament for all of the projects. We asked the Parliament to see if it's possible to get the measures on the outside of the building to make the copy in Minecraft as accurate as possible. And after a little bit of negotiation, that was okay. So the 6th graders worked with recreating the Parliament building, and it turned out that this year the Parliament actually is the building is 150 years old. So a few weeks ago there was an anniversary event outside of the Parliament building, with a couple of 100 5th graders who got to see the building, who got to see a lot of activities and even a bit of Minecraft themselves. When this event program came under the nose of the Prime Minister, it turned out that the Prime Minister actually wanted to play Minecraft with the 6th graders who had made the building. So this is, I guess, our most, maybe not our most important, but our most prominent stakeholder who have been in our traveling Future Classroom Lab. So what we did was just to bring our tablet PCs with Minecraft Edu to the Parliament building, to the tests you can see here on the right side of the slide. There's some of the students who made the Minecraft building. There's to the left here our Prime Minister Erna Solberg playing Minecraft with some of the students who made the building. And there's even an avatar for Erna Solberg in Minecraft. So I guess this was very important moment for us this spring, where we actually got the thumbs up from the Norwegian Prime Minister, for which actually stated that this absolutely could be a game to use also in schools. Some of the other stakeholders we are working with this year is the Norwegian Museum for Science and Technology. We are working with the Fritt Ord Foundation, which roughly translates to the Free Speech Foundation. We work on 2 different projects with Norway's national broadcaster, NRK. We work with some municipalities who are doing some serious business on programming in schools. That's Kongsberg, Bodø, and Ulstein municipality. And we also cooperate from time to time with game developers and with ICT vendors. So I guess my last piece of advice in this webinar would be on how you should work with stakeholders in FCL Labs. Is firstly to invite key people to workshops and presentations. Key people could be anyone with an interest in school and education, but of course innovative teachers, innovative school leaders, ICT vendors, and people working in the education business often have the same goal to make learning engaging, fun, exciting, and relevant for 21st century skills, etc. And we always try to say yes if people or organizations of interest want us to do workshops, to contribute to something. We try to say yes as often as we can. We try to be as visible as we can. We use blogs, we use social media, we are talking to traditional media from time to time. We use newsletters and generally try to have a presence on the web, so that if people are talking about innovative ICT in education, they should always be talking to us. And of course, it's very important to give innovative teachers spaces to showcase their work. Because teachers, first and foremost, at least in Norway, listens to other teachers first. It doesn't matter really what experts or researchers say. In my opinion, teachers will always give an ear to other teachers who share their work, who share their practices, and who are willing to reflect on the internet or in person of what they are doing in the classroom. So that concludes my presentation. I guess that if you have any questions, it's possible to make it to a Q&A session at this point. Should I give the presenter back to any of you at the EUN, perhaps?
Thank you, Jorunn. No, it's okay. You can keep it. There have been some questions in the chat. So, for example, I think you were talking about the ambassadors, and there was a question from Jim about how many hours a month on average would these teachers need to be involved. So what time do they need to commit? What would be your estimation? How much time is needed?
Well, that depends on what we ask from them, really. There have actually been a couple of times where we have paid teachers where projects tend to go on for more than a few hours if they are writing stuff which we are going to print or which have a big significance. We might pay them the salary where they are, which they earn on a day-to-day basis. But most of the time, our ambassadors will maybe do a couple of hours related to the SCL lab, but those hours are always intertwined with what they are already doing in the classrooms. So very often we do not ask them to do stuff apart from what they are already doing. We try to arrange things so that things we are interested in, things we need to know more about, we ask them to check it out in their teaching practices and see what they like. So I would say on a general, there might be 2 or 5 hours per month the teachers are putting into the project, but that depends really. It could be less, it could be more, but the most important thing is that we always try to check out things which they are already using or are interested in using in the future in their classrooms. So there's a couple of more questions here.
Yes, we have another one from Turkey. I think this came as a private one, so I don't know if you saw this. He says, does future classroom lab mean the mixture of virtual and real learning and teaching? So the mix of virtual and real life learning. Is this also your concept of the future classroom?
Could you repeat the question, please?
If the future classroom is the mixture of virtual and real learning and teaching.
Oh, okay. That is a big question. I'm not really sure if I'm able to answer that question in a good way. I think that it's way too early to say anything about how virtual reality will affect education classroom practices. At some point in the future, it might play a key role, but I think it's many years till we reach the point where virtual reality equipment is standard equipment in the classrooms. At the moment, it's very expensive. It's kind of heavy to set up. You can do some quick small stuff with mobile phones, but I think it's many years to virtual realities or mixed realities will have a big impact on education in classrooms. Hope that answered the question, and I hope I understood the question right.
Good, thank you.
Oh, there's a couple of more questions here. Excellent.
Yes.
Yeah.
So you can see it on the chat.
Yeah. Okay. See. Let me see. So there's one from Ingrid here, which asks about lessons who are 45 minutes. How can this reality described by me be used in classes like the ones I have portrayed with 28 students per class? Oh, well, that is another big question. I'm not sure I'm able to answer in a proper way. I think that how lessons are organized and how it's possible to cram all this stuff into lessons across countries really have so much to do with localization of schools and subjects. But I think quite a few of the teachers in our network, at least, have succeeded in making they have been able to make lessons longer than 45 minutes. Maybe they are able from time to time to work in project periods, which are team-based, so you don't have to split up the class in 45-minute sections. That's obviously a problem if you are going to work properly with ICTs and innovative ICTs especially. I think it's very important to have enough time to get immersed in what the technologies can do for learning. So there's a question from Jorg here. How can I engage firms sending their interesting material for School Lab? Oh, that is a very interesting question. Well, I would say that to start talking to people, to start making scenarios for learning, making learning stories. You can perhaps use the resources from the Future Classroom Lab. Maybe you will have use of the Future Classroom Lab toolkit, which is available on the FCL web pages. Let me see. I'm going to post a thing or two in the chat here. So here's first URL for some stuff I wrote about traveling around with the FCL Lab, and here I'm going to post the link to the Future Classroom Lab toolkit. That might be a way to start persuading firms to perhaps spend a bit of money on getting an FCL lab up. In my opinion, it seems like many technology vendors are very interested in working closely with schools. Many ICT vendors are very happy to have schools and classrooms set up as test labs for equipment which they perhaps plan to roll out on a larger scale later. And I would also say that where there are science and technology museums, you should perhaps try talking to them, because science and technology museums are, at least here in Oslo, one of our best, one of the best. We cooperate very good with the Science and Technology Museum. So, okay, I see you posted a shorter URL for the blog, Elena. Thanks. That was an extremely long URL. Okay. It's a bit difficult for me to scroll in the chat. Are there any questions I have missed, Elena?
There was a question from Dalibor on if some sort of special license is needed to establish your own Future Classroom Lab, or if it can be independently. So to that point, I wanted to to reply perhaps myself that it's not needed any sort of license, and we from the Brussels, from the European Schoolnet, we are very happy to include new initiatives to the network, but we would like to also emphasize that it's an for the time being, it's still a sort of informal network, and all these initiatives, whether they are taken by bigger organizations like Jorun's organization or individual schools, they are all sort of independent initiatives created by the ones who start doing it. So we can't unfortunately provide financial support for those, but we are very happy to provide this platform of network of learning labs to bring together these different initiatives, and they are all different because they all work based on local or national needs and resources. So we are seeing very different approaches, very different learning labs being developed. So they are fully independent, but like Jorun said, they have this. They are already using our logo, inspired by the Future Classroom Lab. So I hope that already clarifies that point.
I would guess so. So I hope it is possible for those of you who are planning to set up Learning Lab to communicate with me or with the people at EUN, because obviously some of you will have questions who might pop up later. You can contact me by email if you want to. I can drop the email address, my email address in the chat here. So if you have any questions about setting up a lab, or would like to hear a bit more about our experiences, you are welcome to send me an email. So, Elina, do we have any more questions now?
I think we've finished. There was a general question from Jagmur. I think his question also relates to many of you. So he was asking how to establish your own FCL. So there is no magic trick for that. I would suggest that you go to the FCL network webpage, the link that I just posted. So there you can see some videos. You can see the descriptions of the existing labs. So you get some ideas what has been done by others already. And you can also see the criteria and get then in contact with us for more details.
Yeah, I would like to add that you don't really have to be an expert on all kinds of stuff to set up an FCL lab. From our point of view, we rely quite a bit on what the teachers say, and even though none of us are experts in everything we do, we be quite a lot of competence which is in demand in schools. But I would say that if you do have an interest in learning and ICTs, and if you are able to teach people about a tool, a technology, something which has to do with ICT learning, you are on a good way to make your own FCL lab. But being in network with teachers, other teachers, is perhaps the best tip I've gotten I feel very humble and it's a very humbling thing to run this network of teachers who all have great ideas for teaching and transforming teaching. And it's very inspiring for me to see what happens in their classroom and to just be a little piece in all of this is, I would say, very inspiring. And I hope there's other FCL labs who will pop up soon.
Thank you, Jorund. So there hasn't been any new questions so far, so I think we are ready to close the webinar just right on time.
Okay.
Before 5 o'clock. So thank you very much for presenting. Thank you everybody for being here for the presentation. So we don't have any more new FCL webinars scheduled for this summer, but as soon as we have new ones, we will of course let you know.